Thank you. Thank you. That's Hugh Jackman.
There are few men in Hollywood who embody both ferocity and grace, who can roar like a beast on screen, yet speak with the tenderness of a poet off it. For over 2 decades, Hugh Jackman was the face of one of cinema's most iconic heroes, Wolverine, a symbol of rage, resilience, and pain. But behind those adamantium claws was a man fighting very different battles: loneliness, pressure, loss, and the heavy weight of perfection. Before the fame, before the musicals, before the world knew his name, there was a boy from Sydney, raised by a single father after his mother suddenly left. A boy who dreamed of telling stories long before the world called him a star. This is not just the story of Wolverine. It's the story of the man who became him. The laughter, the heartbreak, the art, and the scars that defined one of Hollywood's most beloved figures. This is the untold journey of Hugh Jackman, from humble beginnings to global legend. Hugh Michael Jackman was born on October 12, 1968, in Sydney, Australia, the youngest of 5 children in a modest working-class family. His parents, Chris and Grace, were devout English Christians who had moved to Australia for a fresh start. But that new beginning soon fractured. When Hugh was just 8, his mother abruptly returned to England, leaving his father to raise all 5 children alone. For years, Hugh would wake up hoping she might come back. But the door never opened. That childhood wound, that quiet ache of abandonment, would shape the empathy and emotional depth audiences would one day feel in his performances. His father, a man of unwavering discipline and faith, became both anchor and compass. Hugh admired him deeply, a figure of strength and integrity who taught him the value of hard work and humility. Yet, the young boy often escaped into dreams. The stage, the stories, and the imagined worlds where broken hearts could be healed through music and laughter. At school, Hugh wasn't the loudest or the smartest, but he was endlessly curious. He played rugby, loved adventure, and carried a restless energy, a spark that needed direction. And when he discovered the power of performance, something clicked. For the first time, he found a space where he didn't feel alone. The pain of losing a mother, the discipline of a devoted father, and the freedom of imagination, all would become the foundation for the man who would later embody both strength and vulnerability. Before the fame, before the spotlight, Hugh Jackman was simply a boy learning how to turn his pain into purpose, and his silence into art. After finishing school, Hugh didn't immediately chase the lights of the stage. He chased stability. He studied communications at the University of Technology, Sydney, dreaming of a career in journalism. But the universe had other plans. In his final year, Hugh took a drama class just for fun. That one decision would change everything. Inside the theater, he found something he didn't know he'd been missing: freedom. Freedom to feel, to express, to live through 1,000 lives. Acting became not just an escape, but a calling. He soon enrolled at the Western Australian Academy of Performing Arts, one of the country's most respected acting schools. It was there that Hugh's natural charisma and raw emotion began to bloom. He wasn't the most polished student, but he had something you couldn't teach: sincerity. His professors saw it. His classmates felt it. After graduation, Hugh struggled like every aspiring actor. He took small roles in stage productions, Australian TV, anything that paid the bills. Rejections were frequent. Fame was distant. But he never lost faith. Then came the moment that changed everything. In 1995, he was cast in the Australian TV drama Corelli. It wasn't a blockbuster, but it was fate. On set, he met actress Deborah Lee Furness. She was established, confident, and everything he aspired to be. Within a year, they were married. That role didn't just give him love, it gave him direction. His confidence grew, his talent sharpened, and the world began to notice. Offers started to come from stage musicals, television, and eventually the international stage. What started as a casual class had turned into destiny. The boy who once hid behind stories was now standing in front of audiences, ready to tell his own. In the late 1990s, Hugh Jackman was gaining respect in Australia. But he was still a local star, not yet a global one. That was about to change. When 20th Century Fox began casting for a risky new superhero movie called X-Men, they needed someone rugged, magnetic, and believable as a tortured mutant named Wolverine. The role originally belonged to Dougray Scott, but fate intervened. Scott had scheduling conflicts. With only weeks before filming, the studio took a chance on an unknown Australian theater actor, Hugh Jackman. No one expected what happened next. From the moment he stepped on screen, the growl, the eyes, the barely contained fury, audiences were captivated. Wolverine wasn't just a comic book hero anymore. He was human, complex, and heartbreakingly real. Hugh's performance carried both power and pain, a reflection of the loneliness he had known since childhood. The film exploded, launching an entire franchise and turning Jackman into an international phenomenon overnight. Suddenly, the man who once sang in small theaters was leading one of Hollywood's biggest blockbusters. But Hugh didn't let fame consume him. While others might have chased celebrity, he returned to the stage, performing in Oklahoma, on London's West End, earning critical acclaim and showing the world his musical side. He wasn't just Wolverine, he was a performer in every sense of the word. Over the next decade, Hugh's range astonished Hollywood. The tortured magician in The Prestige, the tragic hero Jean Valjean in Les Miserables, a role that earned him an Academy Award nomination, and the visionary showman P.T. Barnum in The Greatest Showman, inspiring millions with his energy and optimism. By the mid-2010s, Hugh Jackman had become more than a movie star. He was a symbol of dedication, humility, and unshakable work ethic. The boy who once doubted himself now stood among legends, with the world at his feet. But behind the applause, a quiet question began to echo. How long can one man carry the weight of a legend before it starts to break him? For nearly 2 decades, Hugh Jackman was Wolverine, a role that made him a household name and a hero to millions. But as the years passed, the claws that brought him glory began to feel like chains. Behind the smiles, the interviews, and the perfectly built physique was a man trapped in his own success. Playing the same character for 17 years demanded not only physical transformation but emotional sacrifice. Every time he said goodbye to Wolverine, Hollywood called him back, and every time he answered. Because he couldn't disappoint the fans. The pressure was immense. Each movie meant stricter diets, longer workouts, and constant media scrutiny. Even his personal life wasn't immune. Tabloids speculated endlessly about his marriage, questioning his sexuality, inventing rumors that tried to shake his image of stability and grace. Through it all, Hugh remained silent, never defensive, never angry. He believed that dignity was the best response to noise. But the toll was real. He once admitted feeling lost in other people's expectations, unsure where the character ended and the man began. Then came the health scares. Over the years, he underwent multiple surgeries to remove skin cancer, a constant reminder that even superheroes bleed. Yet he never let it define him. Instead, he turned each diagnosis into a message about awareness and resilience. By the mid-2010s, the world saw the confident showman, but inside, Hugh was questioning his future. Was he an actor chained to a myth, or an artist ready to start again? The fall wasn't a scandal of betrayal or addiction. It was the quiet, invisible kind. The kind that happens when a man gives too much of himself to the world and wonders what's left to keep. In 2017, Logan marked the end of an era and the rebirth of a man. For the first time, Hugh Jackman said goodbye to Wolverine, the character that had defined his career. The film wasn't just a superhero story. It was a farewell, raw, emotional, and deeply human. When the credits rolled, audiences cried not only for Wolverine, but for the man who had given him life for 17 years. For Hugh, Logan was liberation. He no longer needed to prove his strength through claws and growls. He wanted to explore something deeper: humanity, vulnerability, joy. He returned to the stage, where it had all begun. From the man, the music, the show, world tour to intimate Broadway performances, Hugh found peace in connecting directly with audiences. No mask, no script, just music and sincerity. He spoke often about gratitude, about the importance of family and balance. He began to focus on what truly mattered. His wife, Deborah Lee, their two adopted children, and the simple beauty of ordinary life. The real success, he once said, is being the same person off stage that you are on it. Professionally, he evolved. He took on roles that challenged him differently. Complex dramas, heartfelt musicals, and character-driven stories that celebrated emotion over spectacle. The man once defined by physical strength was now celebrated for emotional honesty. And through it all, his humility never wavered. While others chased the next blockbuster, Hugh chased meaning. His career had come full circle. From pain to peace, from ambition to acceptance. Reinvention didn't mean changing who he was. It meant remembering who he'd always been. The boy from Sydney who learned to turn pain into purpose had finally found what he'd been searching for all along, himself. In a world obsessed with fame, Hugh Jackman built something far rarer: respect. He redefined what it means to be a Hollywood star. For Hugh, success was never just about awards or box office numbers. It was about integrity. Directors admired his discipline. Co-stars spoke of his kindness. Crew members called him a leader who never raised his voice. He wasn't just a performer. He was a standard. Across generations, actors looked to him as proof that you could be both ambitious and humble, powerful and kind. He balanced superhero blockbusters with musical theater, drama, and philanthropy, effortlessly moving between genres while keeping his humanity intact. His portrayal of Wolverine became legendary, setting a new bar for emotional depth in superhero films. But perhaps his greatest influence lies off-screen, in his commitment to family, to kindness, and to giving back. Through charities, children's hospitals, and countless acts of quiet generosity, Hugh used his fame as a force for good. Even after decades in the spotlight, he never stopped being the man from Sydney who smiled easily, who treated everyone with equal warmth, who believed that art should heal as much as it entertains. Hugh Jackman's legacy isn't just carved into cinema. It lives in the people he's touched, the artists he's inspired, and the millions who saw in him not just a star, but a reminder that strength is gentler than we think. As the cameras slowed and the applause softened, Hugh Jackman began to focus on something deeper than fame: peace. He often spoke about how success without gratitude is hollow, and how the truest reward is learning to be present. For him, life was never about chasing the next role, but about cherishing the moments in between. Cooking breakfast for his kids, walking hand in hand with Deborah Lee, laughing with old friends. Their marriage, spanning nearly 3 decades, became one of Hollywood's rare constants, a quiet testament to loyalty and love in an industry built on illusion. When asked about his secret, Hugh simply said, "I married my best friend, and I never stopped choosing her." Spiritually, he found strength in mindfulness and faith, not as doctrine, but as balance. Meditation, charity, and simple acts of kindness became his grounding rituals. He once reflected, "The older I get, the less I want to prove, and the more I want to share." He used his platform to speak about mental health, kindness, and the importance of empathy in a divided world. Fame, he realized, was temporary, but character endures. At this stage in life, Hugh doesn't chase applause. He listens to it from a distance, grateful but detached. What drives him now isn't ambition, it's meaning. The man who once played the indestructible Wolverine has learned the most powerful truth of all: peace is the greatest superpower. The story of Hugh Jackman is not just about fame or fortune, it's about balance. It's about a boy who faced loneliness, a man who carried the weight of a legend, and a soul that never stopped searching for meaning beyond the spotlight. He showed the world that kindness and strength can coexist, that vulnerability is not weakness, and that true greatness has nothing to do with applause. From the dusty schoolyards of Sydney to the biggest stages on earth, Hugh Jackman never forgot who he was, or where he came from. He once said, The world doesn't need more famous people. It needs more good people, and in the end, that may be the essence of his legacy. Because behind every role, every song, every standing ovation, there was always a man who simply wanted to make people feel something real. As the curtain falls and the lights dim, we're left not with Wolverine, but with Hugh Jackman, the man who turned pain into passion, fame into purpose, and life into art. And maybe that's the lesson he leaves us with. Be fierce when you must, gentle when you can, and always, always lead with heart.